Hello everyone, this is ponderonweather. In this update, we're going to be talking about Hurricane Elsa bringing hurricane conditions through the Caribbean and then downgrading into a tropical storm as it goes into the Gulf early next week, impacting Florida. So if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. Good morning, everyone. This is Saturday, July 3rd. It's actually my wife and I's 17th wedding anniversary. So this will actually be my only video of the day, but I wanted to give you an update on Hurricane Elsa, the latest. It is packing winds of 75 miles an hour. It's moving west, northwest at 31 miles an hour. So we're expecting hurricane conditions and dangerous storm surge are expected within the hurricane warning areas of Jamaica and Haiti later on today. Going into Sunday, widespread heavy rain will move across southern Hispaniola and Jamaica today into Sunday, where isolated to scattered flash flooding and mudslides will be possible. Heavy rain will then impact the Cayman Islands and Cuba Sunday going into Monday, resulting in significant flooding with mudslides into Cuba as Elsa approaches the Florida Keys and the southern Florida early next week. Isolated flash flooding and minor flooding will be possible. So hurricane conditions are dangerous. Storm surge are possible in portions of eastern Cuba beginning as early as Sunday, where hurricane watch is already in effect. There is an increasing risk of wind, storm, and surge and rainfall impacts elsewhere into Cuba as going into Sunday. So there's also an increasing risk for storm surge and wind and rainfall impacts beginning Monday into the Florida Keys, spreading northward along the Florida Peninsula through Tuesday. But however, there is a little bit of uncertainty because it's going over some mountain regions and it could start to tear it apart and shear it apart as it goes into the mountains of Cuba. So let's go over the details. Here's the latest update on when you could possibly expect tropical storm force-like conditions in your area. So if you live in Jamaica, you could be looking at tropical storm conditions as early as tonight by 8 p.m. as conditions start to rapidly deteriorate. This will continue moving off west-northwest at 31 miles an hour, start to impact the Bahamas as well, bringing tropical storm force conditions into the Cayman Islands as well as early as going into a Sunday morning. And this would continue off lifting west-northwest, bringing tropical storm force conditions into the Florida Keys down here into southern Florida by Monday morning. This would continue lifting off, bringing tropical storm force conditions to the panhandle of Florida, as well as southern portions of Georgia going into the Carolinas by Wednesday morning. So those are your impacted areas. Let's take a look at the overall satellite picture, what it looks like currently this morning. There's our cold front, and it's got a blow-up convection and right here in West Texas, where they're experiencing some very heavy rain. And along this cold front, man, parts of North Texas actually picked up 4 inches yesterday with some isolated thunderstorms, some very heavy rain with these tropical type downpours, and some, especially for July with this cold front. Been a lot of heavier rain into Oklahoma, and that has shifted off into Texas. That'll continue today with our slow moving cold front that's moving southward into the southern region. So along this boundary here, you're expecting some very heavy rain. This is the leftovers of what was Invest 95L. That will actually continue moving west-northwestward. That'll actually get into the Gulf and start bringing some heavier rains back into Texas by Monday. There is Elsa. You can definitely see it's pretty big, and it's got a lot of convection just right in the core, right in the center. But it did go what they call rapid intensification. Went from a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm to an 85-mile-per-hour hurricane in a short amount of time. So that definitely qualified it for rapid intensification, but it kind of got too big for its britches, as it is moving at 31 miles an hour, which is really fast for a tropical system. And a lot of times when that happens, that tends to kind of overrun itself. And that's typically kind of what's happening with Elsa. It's just getting out ahead of itself. And you can actually see that really depiction in the overall water vapor imagery. As you can see, it's definitely cleared the way. There's not much to stop this thing from intensifying or lessening. The only thing that's stopping itself is Elsa itself, because it's actually just running so fast. And because it's running so fast, it's getting sheared apart. And you can actually see the convection actually blowing up away from the center now, out ahead of the system. So that's definitely an indicative that this system is just going so fast. It's kind of overrunning itself on, onto itself, but it's got a lot of convection still by the center, and that's why they're keeping it a hurricane, and it expected to remain a hurricane as it continues moving across the west northwest, going into Haiti, going in just north of the island of Jamaica. And that's why they have those hurricane warnings right now. But once it gets to those mountainous type regions, it's going to start to lose its luster and start losing some of its intensity, and probably going to be downgraded to a tropical storm. And the latest guidance from the intensity models has mentioned that. I mean, a lot of the guidance has waned from going up to a category 2, going up to a possible category 3. Most of them have it continue remaining as a hurricane, and then possibly by hour 24, hour 36, and a day and a half from now, once it gets impacted by land and a lot of mountainous regions, it's probably going to be downgraded to a tropical storm, and it's probably not going to be coming back into a hurricane. It's going to remain a tropical storm. So the latest ensemble members pretty much have it pretty much beeline with the European model and the GFS, has it continue moving on that west northwest track, going into the Gulf of Mexico, just west of Florida, and then scraping up the coastline, and going to be impacting Florida for much of the state coming up by early next week. So if we take a look at the overall water imagery, we can really kind of depict on what's really happening. This is what it would look like by later on this afternoon. There's our cold front. So with some very heavy rain still into North Texas, getting into Central Texas. You guys are going to be impacted this morning, probably in North Texas, down into Austin, into San Antonio, with very heavy rain into Houston. That'll spread into southern portions of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama with that stalled cold front, even into Florida with some heavier rains, especially into Central Florida. But there's Elsa with the heavier rains starting to impact Haiti, as it's going to be moving across, getting closer to Jamaica by later on tonight. There's the look by tomorrow morning. There's the eye, would place it just north of the island of Jamaica. They're probably going to be getting some tropical storm force conditions for the entire island tomorrow, if not hurricane force conditions on the northern tip of the island, and that'll spread its moisture into the Cayman Islands as we go into later the day on Sunday, and then start to spread the moisture into the Bahamas as well by later on Sunday night. And there's that stalled cold front, pretty evident, but that's actually going to be fading by the time Monday rolls around. So by Monday, that cold front will actually get replaced with the remnants of 95L, and that's when you're going to start seeing the impacts from that system to the coastline, as Elsa will be more or less over the Cayman Islands, wreaking havoc onto them, going into Cuba with tropical storm force conditions extending into portions of Bahamas as well, with some very heavy rain. And that heavier rain will start reaching the Florida Keys by the time we go into Monday morning. As we go into Tuesday, that system should be back into the Gulf of Mexico. It should be more or less into western side of Florida by then, with some very heavy rain. Going to be a tropical storm by then. I don't think it's going to regenerate back into a hurricane as it goes back into the Gulf. It's just going to be so close to land again, as this will continue moving across, probably scraping the coastline of Florida as this continues moving northward through Florida. And by the time we get into Wednesday morning, it's going to be more or less impacting almost the entire state of Florida, with those tropical storm force conditions lined up over the central Florida, into the northern parts of Florida, going into parts of Georgia, and extending into the Carolinas, as this would be rapidly downgraded into a tropical depression by then. And this would continue lifting off into the northeast as it gets pulled up and scraping the coastline with heavier rains into the South Carolina, extending to heavier rains into portions of North Carolina as this would continue lifting off, but then out to sea. It's not going to be a storm by then, if not even probably a tropical depression by then, with just those heavier rains going to be left over from this system. But by Friday, that continues lifting off into the Northeast, and it'll be a distant memory. So much of you guys in the Northeast will not experience any impacts at all from Elsa, as drier air filters in from the north and pushes it well out to sea, and not going to be able to regenerate as it goes off into to the northeastern areas. But yeah, look at your rainfall estimates over the next several days, with the combination of that stalled front along the southern regions, you know, into Texas, into Louisiana, into Mississippi and Alabama, and the Florida Keys, Florida Panhandle, all of Florida. There's Jamaica, there's the Cayman Islands. So along that boundary here, that's where you're going to be picking up the heavier rains into Bahamas as well. But you can definitely see, yes, you're going to be impacted into Georgia, into the Carolinas, a little bit of impacts into North Carolina, but not much else further north to that from Elsa, as that would continue lifting off out to sea. It would be a distant memory by then. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after storms.